This week on our news recap, we finally have some concrete information on Ampere and the launch date of the RTX 3000, courtesy from Nvidia. We have also finally some information on the memory of these upcoming video cards. We have a new player entering the market for the SoC server chips, and a few other tidbits of information, so stay tuned. Hello there guys, TPC Guy here with the recap of the news in tech and gaming, mostly tech, from the past week. We tried to capture the most important things that have come out in the past 7 days and give you guys a nice new little roundup of what happened, so you don't have to dig around through multiple sites and videos to find the most important stuff. Short update, there are timestamps down below if you're not interested in channel updates and that sort of stuff, so scroll down, they'll be in the description. But in any case, you guys might have noticed there's been a lot less uploads lately, a lot less videos out. There's multiple reasons for that, first of which we are in kind of a period there's not a whole lot happening in the PC market, not a lot of new releases. We are now looking at Nvidia's upcoming releases soon, so there's that. So there's not a lot to talk about unless I wanted to go full on speculation mode or something like that. Also not really gaming a lot lately, so not much gaming videos involved either. It's also kind of a lull period in World of Warcraft, so it's also a bit down there in terms of content. Plus, well, I have to be honest, I just haven't really been feeling like it, and it's a small channel. It's not like it's putting food on the table or something, so it's purely a hobby thing, and I just have not been feeling like really creative, haven't really had great ideas for videos, so taking it easy at this point, and I'll just do a video whenever something good comes up, but honestly just haven't really been feeling a lot like it, so hopefully that will pick up soon. And let's just start with the news that have popped up throughout the week. After months and months of speculation with no actual concrete info to go on, and just rumors and piled on top of leaks, we finally have something to go on Ampere's, or well, Nvidia's upcoming Ampere architecture, which is going to debut on the RTX 3000, supposedly, name not yet confirmed, lineup, but we finally have some information of when we might hear more about it. Nvidia recently posted this on their webpage. It's a whole nostalgia-filled trip down to 21 years ago when they first launched their discrete GPUs, so it's interesting read if you want to know how times were back then and how they have evolved since. But in any case, what is important about this is that they have launched an hashtag UltimateCountdown 20 days, and what they are going to be doing is they are going to be heading to their Twitter, or well, all their social media basically, and they are going to every day be featuring basically the most important things that have happened on a given year. So they started on 1999 and then 2000, etc. 2002, here we are, and today, which is Saturday, they are on 2003, posting stuff from 2003, and they're basically recording the improvements and things that came out in each year. And the important thing about this countdown is that supposedly it will end at September 1, and that's when they will have a big event with an announcement with their CEO, all that sort of stuff, and that is pretty clearly going to be Ampere, the new lineup, so that much seems to be guaranteed, really. We had some news last week that kind of pointed towards a September 9 date, but clearly they are not completely accurate. It does not mean that the date doesn't mean something. Maybe they will be announced September 1st and actually launched September 9 or something along the lines, or maybe it's just completely wrong. But in any case, this is an official Nvidia announcement. There will be an event on September 1. We just have to kind of wait and see what it is, but it will be Ampere RTX related. That pretty much is definite by now. As far as what we do know about Ampere and the RTX cards, not much really. We are almost sure, nothing is officially guaranteed, not even the name. We know they're coming, we know the architecture is codenamed Ampere, we know that that's basically it really. We don't know naming, we don't know SKUs, we don't know CUDA core counts or specs. It's all pretty much speculating. Something that is pretty kind of not confirmed but very strongly hinted at by a lot of people on all the channels, is that they might use, at least for the higher end SKUs on the Founders Edition, they might use a new type of connector that hopefully Nvidia will provide an adapter for because of increased power delivery. That much is kind of guaranteed by now, that they will have very high power requirements, especially on the higher end. So you will probably need a beefy PSU if you don't have one already and you want to run one of those. Other than that, not much is known. Even the naming is not really guaranteed. There actually was kind of a rumor going around that they are going to be calling them 2190, 2180, etc. based on the naming scheme. You can check this article on Tweakdown if you're interested in that, but I honestly don't think there is much to it. Could be wrong. Nvidia has definitely done weird things with their naming, mostly looking at the 1660 series right now. Very strange naming. They back it up with a whole bunch of math and all that sort of stuff, but honestly, it's not based on anything concrete. There was no comment from the video or from anyone else. It's just, they're just pulling this out of, well, somewhere. Other interesting rumors and things that have popped up in the last week, and no, I'm not going to go into specs, etc., because that is all up in the air still, is that the PCIe, well, NVLink finger they call it, basically the part that slots onto your PCI Express slot, seems to be using a different design, a different model. This will not have an impact on your actual, you know, needing a special motherboard or an adapter or anything. It's just the way the pins are laid out in there. The form, you can see it's still the same size, so it doesn't matter, it will still fit on your PCIe slot, don't worry about that. In any case, it seems to be modeled a bit differently from before, and keep in mind this is an unconfirmed article, and you know, pinch of salt, all that sort of stuff. It also, the same article also claims that there is a separate chip in the back, which is something that has been kind of hinted at on other unconfirmed information, that it could be kind of an auxiliary processor aimed at, for example, ray tracing specifically or something like that. But you know, this is unconfirmed information, so take it all with a grain of salt. And what we do know about the upcoming Nvidia parts is that they will definitely be using GDDR6X, which is a new type of memory. Micron, which is a memory manufacturer, has kind of had a tech briefing. They released a few PDF documents. They have been since been taken out because of the sensitive information in there, but at video cards there's still a backup of them if you want to kind of look at everything that they really said there. But as far as what we can take out of those documents in terms of new information is that the GDDR6 standard does exist and it will indeed be used on the Nvidia's GeForce RTX lineup. We know that they will be codenamed 30, 80, 70, etc., which kind of debunks that rumor I was just talking about, because that's how they are removed, mentioned on Micron's removed PDFs. And we know that they will support around 19 to 21 GBPS of memory bandwidth on the cards. There is no clear mention of how much memory the cards will have. Micron apparently claims, I have not really seen this in the document, I might have glimpsed over it, but in any case, they claimed it would be 12 gigs for the 3090, but there has also been, like the article mentions, numerous unconfirmed articles featuring 2220 or even 16 gigabytes of memory, so we'll really have to see about that. I have my doubts on the 20 and 22. Seems like a bit much of memory for a consumer card, unless the 3090 is just a code name for the Titan lineup, in which case then I kind of can see it happening. Now, departing a bit from Nvidia's Ampere lineup, because there's not a whole lot of confirmed information there, but still in the memory field that we just left, Samsung has successfully applied 3D stacking technology on 7nm EUV chips. So this, while being, well, kind of specific thing, it will have a big impact because of, well, real estate, let's say. You will be able to build smaller chips with the same specs than you do these days, because you can stack the memory on top of other components as opposed to on the same plane. So you could save space on a device by having a smaller chip, or alternatively have a bigger chip with more performance than you would otherwise. You get what I mean. If you have a finite amount of space, you can better fill it with more stuff that will increase performance, as long as there's no thermal throttling involved. That will obviously increase your performance. Who's also aiming at increasing performance is Nuvia. It's a relatively new company, less than 2 years old, and they are claiming that they might be able to achieve over 40 or 50% single thread performance higher than Zen 2 at only a third of the power that it uses. Now this company, and I have to admit I was not very familiar with it before reading this article and looking up to it, is aiming at the server market with the system on a chip approach, which is basically a chip that has everything that it needs to run, as opposed to our desktop systems, for example, that have discrete graphics and other sort of stuff. And not only does it have everything on the chip, but it also runs not on our usual desktop x86 architecture, but it will run on an ARM architecture. In this case, the article mentions ARM v9. So they are claiming a very big performance increase at a lower power compared to traditional x86 systems. And that's something that we have been seeing lately more and more, which is ARM-based systems starting to be a real threat to x86. This is made more real by Apple's departure from Intel and embrace of ARM for their upcoming products. So it's kind of exciting to see how our systems will look in the next 5 to 10 years, because this is not a change that will happen overnight, obviously, and x86 will also continuously evolve. So it is interesting to see, though, how it will look in a few years, if we are still going to be using x86 on our systems, or if it will be something else. Next up, an article on WCCF Tech about Intel's 12th generation Alder Lake CPU, so it's still a bit far off, not exactly around the corner, and it's also, like I said, unconfirmed information, so take it with a huge bucket of salt. There is a whole lot of things listed here, like for example the inclusion of big and small cores, which we kind of already had seen in other leaks and unconfirmed sources. The big thing here, though, is that they are supposedly going to be coming out in 2021, and they will supposedly as well support DDR5 memory. Now, DDR5 memory is something that I was personally not expecting to see on mainstream CPUs earlier than like 2022 at the earliest. So if Alder Lake will be coming on 2021 with DDR5, then that is something that I was not expecting to see, really. You can read the whole article if you are interested in all the supposed like SKU configurations with how many big and how many small cores and whatever. But this early on, this is probably something that is really not set in stone and is completely unconfirmed. There's a few other things that need to be taken into account with this article, though, like for example, Alder Lake could very easily be delayed. We know Intel is having issues with the 7nm process. Alder Lake will be 10nm process, so it's not quite the same thing, but Intel also had a whole lot of issues with their 10nm process, so no guarantee that it's going to be coming when it is supposed to be coming in 2021. It could be delayed further along. We don't know. It would certainly not be out of the ballpark, really. And there's also the thing with DDR5 that when you switch a memory standard, and that's something that other channels mentioned not so long ago as well, when you switch from DDR3 to 4, the higher end DDR3 SKUs had a lot better performance than the beginning of the DDR4 SKUs, let's say, when they were just launched. So we might, and keyword might, see the same thing here when DDR5 arrives. If you have a very good DDR4 set, like for example, 3600 CL16 or a good memory kit, let's say a high-end one really, then if you are going to be going to DDR4, then in the first year or so, or the first few months at least, there might be kind of a shortage of SKUs out there that actually outperform yours. But that's something that we'll have to see when DDR5 actually surfaces, if it happens or not. And if it does, then maybe you're better off waiting a generation before upgrading, or just buying a cheapo DDR5 kit and replacing it later on for a good one, then they start improving. Last but not least for today, kind of a funny article, not funny, but something slightly unusual that actually hints at possible collaboration with an important news hardware news channel later on, which is that Machinist actually lapped a Ryzen 16 core within tolerance of 0.3 microns of flatness error, so that is pretty damn flat compared to what you can get out of the box from your CPU in terms of how flat the surface is to improve thermal contact with your cooler of choice. But it is also a lot better than you get by lapping it normally with sandpaper. So that is interesting to see how much cooler this part will run compared to a stock part. The guy who did the lapping, there's a video on YouTube. His channel name is Penro. He has not tested it for temperature to see how much it helps, but there's a clip on his video when he is basically calling a guy called Beefstuck, which as you might know runs the interesting tech channel called Gamers Nexus. So might maybe expect some collaboration in the future there. It was a funny thing at the end of that video, but that's something really that I would be interesting to see. How much influence does having such a flat surface on your IHS matter in terms of temperatures and performance for a CPU? So that's basically been it for the week. Thank you guys for sticking with us, even on a period where there's not a whole lot of videos out there. And well, it's hopefully going to improve in the future, and we'll get something to talk about and make videos about. So once again, thanks for sticking around, and I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. If you'd like to help the channel grow and give us more possibilities to do more with what we have really, and improve the videos as well and get more interesting content for you guys, then hit the subscribe button. That's what we really need to do to help us grow right now. And well, keep checking our videos now and again. So I hope I'll see you guys next week, and in the meantime, have fun.